So welcome, Duncan. This is Slipcase mini-series. Let me ask you the very first question. What is keeping you awake at night? What's your 4AMer?
Well, thank you for having me on first and foremost. And I think there's lots of challenges within the industry. When I think about my role specifically at Inigo, the 4AMer for me, and I'm going to turn it on its head completely. I think that the thing that should be keeping all marketers, communications people, PR awake at night is how can we be more creative in the industry? I think this is a very traditional industry. We see a lot of good activity across a variety of different channels, a lot of strong messaging, but there is a lot of it. And the sort of philosophy that we're trying to adopt at Inigo, and we're far from the finished product, is trying to do a little bit less, but with more focus. I think that that's more of a winning recipe for engaging with audiences with better meaning and purpose. The amount of content that's piled onto platforms, and a lot of it feels unchoreographed and almost uncurated at times. And there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise from lots of different drivers across different transformational actors. You know, you look at the macro environment where you've got geopolitics and you've got market-driven change, and that's not to mention what's happening in the political sphere with conflict, US government, etc., all of which impacts the industry we're in. And I think a lot of that will be keeping business leaders up at night. That's sort of the 4AMer that most of us will live and breathe. But for me, from a marketing perspective, I think it's very much where can we be better with our creativity? How can we ramp things up? And it's not just visual creative, messaging creative. It's really how can we find more creative solutions to problems that our brokers and our customers are facing. And I think if we can do that in an improved way or keep that front of mind, then it becomes a really powerful movement for change within the industry.
Well, thank you so much. We've discussed a lot about data on the sidelines. How do you see data and what's available to you being creative in a way? How are you harnessing that?
I think for us, again, at Inigo and within marketing, data is intrinsic to the message that we deploy into the marketplace. This is what we want people to know and believe that we do well, right? So over a third of our workforce, we've invested in data and analytics experts who are really helping us on an hourly, daily, weekly, monthly basis to really push the dimension of data forward, looking at it from various angles to find the hidden truths that sit within it. And then really it's our job as the marketing team, as the distribution team, to communicate that through storytelling and to do that really, really effectively. So taking this data-driven mindset and shifting it through the lens of what is an appropriate, relevant, resonant, high-impact story that we can share with our brokers and our customers. And a lot of marketers will talk about the preemptive nature of seeing what is happening in the market, getting ahead of what's happening in the market, and trying to share a story that's going to help the broker and the client at the end of the day. So, data is everything to us at Inigo. It's absolutely foundational to our messaging, to our look and feel, the visual brand, what we want people to experience when they come to an Inigo event. We want them to feel like there is a data-led edge to what we're saying and how we're communicating that message. And I think the philosophy is really strong. There's a lot of progress happening within AI, technology, blended forms of both. And when we actually boil the data down into a category, you need all of that power behind it to be able to do something meaningful with it. There's so much of it. It's making sense, what's relevant, what's not, and having the expertise and the skill sets who are spending their time and committed to finding those truths. That for us is like intrinsic to where we think we can make a meaningful difference in the industry itself.
I'm going to stretch that a little bit more. We discussed about how clarity through data is key to then portray a certain narrative when it comes to marketing. But we hear more and more how marketeers are scrutinized about budget and how these then compute internally. Can you resonate with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, the use of technology and platforms, large language models, AI itself, all of which is there to, I believe, change the perspective, change the power of the narrative and the story, do things with great efficiency, do things faster with less. I don't buy into the necessity of all of that. Like, if it's going to save marketing dollars or budget in the long run, because you've found a really, really fast, dynamic approach of doing something, deploying a message in market, I don't think that's necessarily the right angle and approach. For me, the human element is something that should never be lost or discounted in that process. We need the essence of the human brain, the creativity. We need the left and the right brain working together to create emotive, compelling messaging. And I think whether the machine that's learning the algorithm or whatever it might be that's helping to curate the messages, at this point it doesn't feel like we're at that maturity to be able to lean on it holistically. And I don't think it's necessarily going to replace a marketer. The marketer of the future, to me, is using it as additional intelligence, if you like. And additional intelligence is actually a phrase that was coined by our distribution leader, Matthew Rolfe. And he mentioned it to me recently, and I really bought into that philosophy that it's no longer an artificial or superficial layer which can always come across as disingenuous or unauthentic. This is more the human being blending their expertise and experience with the technology to create something that's really, really powerful.
Why do we need more creativity?
It's central to how we communicate as human beings. There's so much competition in the marketplace. There's so much messaging. There's a lot of noise. And to be able to deliver the cut through of a message that you want to reach the right audience at the right time, to deliver an impact to them, or to actually even just to get them to stop and think about something in a different way, I think is a really, really important focus. In some instances, I feel like the market is bombarded with messaging at times. We wake up to it, we're exposed to it the second we log on to the time we go to sleep every day. And at Inigo, what we're striving to try and do is to do a little bit less, higher impact, with more creativity central to the theme of everything to be able to deliver value.
So we talked about challenges, we talked about worries. Tell us something you're excited about. What do you see happening in the industry that really gets you excited?
I think the thing that really excites me about the insurance industry is the opportunity ahead to embrace change. There's a lot that's happening around us, but it feels, from a marketing standpoint, and I sort of go back to the theme of creativity, it feels like as marketers, as underwriters, brokers, customers, clients, we can all do a little bit more and a little bit better to improve the way we communicate with the market. So the thing that excites me the most about it is taking the steps forward to do that. The other thing is, I feel like we're not really scratching the surface at the moment with technology and our real understanding of where it fits into the wider ecosystem around specialty insurance, and how are we really going to deliver a change in product, in service and experience for customers. We're on this discovery path at the moment, which is interesting and it's fascinating. And again, looking back to how we approach the world at Inigo, we look at the world through a curious lens. We're always trying to ask questions of the world around us and understand it in a different way, and in a better way, some might say. We're allowing ourselves to sort of test and learn things, to fail fast. And for me, that's the interesting part of this, is the exploration of trying to find new ways of doing things. It's exciting, it feels fast moving. And I think there's a great opportunity to do that. There feels like there's a lot of space that some businesses are willing to step into and to test and fail, and others Perhaps not, perhaps their focus is something slightly different. But we definitely count ourselves in the category of let's keep learning, let's keep pushing ourselves to find out more about the world.
It reminds me of when people used to say we're challenging the status quo, but then sometimes I question, is there a status quo? Because everything is ever changing, especially now. Do you feel Inigo is ahead of the curve when it comes to adopting new technology?
It's not to say I feel that we're ahead of the curve. I think that we are on a trajectory to thinking differently about things. I don't think we have all the answers. I think it would be highly unreasonable, unlikely, and a bit of a crazy thought to think that we have all the answers. What sort of drives and fuels me and the way that I think and the mindset that I bring to the role and leading marketing at Inigo is that I think that there's just a big opportunity ahead of us. And that's what excites me. The opportunity to work with data, to work with highly, highly intelligent, skilled people who are spending and dedicating their time to understanding data, to the most sort of beautiful and eye-catching visuals that we could possibly bring forward in our visual brand is something that excites me hugely and sort of drives me forward, but I think also drives my peers, my colleagues, everybody that we work with at Inigo, all of which is constantly underpinned by a very strong culture, and the culture really is what everybody at Inigo buys into. We know what our mission is, we know what our values are, and that's a very powerful thing when you're in amongst the pack and the crowd and you feel like everybody is moving in a direction. So, I don't think we have all the answers, but I love the mindset that we deploy, and I love the mindset that our leaders within our business are pushing for us to follow.
Having adopted this, can you see this growth is happening, so you'll persevere in this line?
Yeah, so I think our strategy is really to try and do what we do exceptionally well. So we have a very clear strategy. We have some very clear markers for success. As with all companies, we have to report on those markers regularly, and we have to make sure that we're checking in and we're meeting the requirements and standards that are set for us by ourselves, our investors, etc., etc. And that, to me, is an important part of it, and that's the sort of convention of it, if you like. In terms of tracking and measurement and reporting, if you like, interestingly, I think there's a general philosophy at Inigo that, whilst that is a really, really important thing, and it's not to say we're breaking down the conventions of how other syndicates and other businesses within the sector report and operate. The regulation, we follow everything by the book. But when it comes to creating value for brokers and for customers, we are trying to create a different mold. The mold is less about us, or me, and how good we are at something, or how brilliant our teams are, or how excellent the product is. It's more about how can we be better each day, and I know it sounds a little bit cliche, but how can we be better each day with that clear focus in front of us to help our customers understand risk, right? And the more that we can provide in terms of insight, in terms of data-driven insight to them, where we package and we share it with them, where we open source the data that we collect from their businesses, the industry they exist in, third parties, the more that we can open source all of that for them, the more we feel we can help them. And this is all about helping brokers and customers on their journey and being there for them to support them through some of the difficult challenges, the 4AMers that are keeping them up at night. And if we can take care of our part of that as a solution, then in our view, the rest falls out of that. The growth trajectory, the business performance, happy people, strong culture. So, for us, it's, in a way, we always speak about low ego. It's a low ego place to work and exist. It's a very flat structure. We all buy into that. But we also buy into the philosophy of having a very strong influence on the world around us and making sure that that leads to good outcomes.
I have a couple of quick fire
Sure.
questions. So when you think of a mentor that you've had, what's the top tip that comes to mind?
One, I think, is trust. If you are mentoring or you're a mentee, there's got to be a really strong trust and belief in that relationship. And I think that has to work both ways. Once you've got that as the foundations, then it's not necessarily following their lead on everything, but it empowers you to challenge their opinion, their thoughts, their perspectives. And when you find yourself in a scenario where you're able to confidently have a difficult conversation with a mentor, challenging their mindset or challenging their philosophy, I think both individuals grow. And I think that's an important part of mentorship, is making sure that there's something in it for both parties, and that there's this mutual understanding around growth.
Looking at you back in the days when you were playing cricket and such professionally,
There we go.
what's a piece of advice that you would have given to your younger self before maybe entering the world of insurance?
Yeah, I think there is. I think and it's something that I coach myself on time and time again, is we're very quick to make decisions. I think the way that the world is set up nowadays with media and information, we get bored quickly. We force ourselves to make fast decisions. And I don't think those decisions, whether you're taking the sports field for your local cricket club, you're playing football, you're in a team environment in an office, or you're at a boardroom table, I don't think taking fast decisions is the right way around. And to me, it's about having patience. So if I was to give one message to a younger version of myself, I would say, be patient, give yourself a bit more time, and realize that not everything comes easy. You've got to work hard, and you've got to take care of what's in front of you, and then the rest should follow, provided you are doing everything you can to improve yourself and to grow yourself, surrounding yourself with good people, and also taking time to champion others. So I think slow down. It doesn't all have to happen today. So yeah, take your time.
There's no such thing as instant gratification.
No. And particularly in marketing and what we do, because if it comes easy and it's really quick, then you probably it hasn't been positioned the right way. To my mind, the best projects that we've delivered on have been the projects where we've had some of those difficult conversations, where we've challenged each other across a table, where we haven't necessarily netted out with the answer there and then, but we've continued a conversation and a discussion, and we've then found that's the nugget, that's the way, that's the direction we should be leaning in. That's when things are highly brilliant and beneficial, not to us, but to the audiences that we're trying to target.
Fun question.
Yeah.
You're together, you're talking about all this, strategizing for the future. What's the one buzzword that you really can't stand?
It's not so much a buzzword, but I think that there is a complete lack of definition to a certain extent with the concept of AI. I think it's used an incredible amount, and there's a real frenzy around the concept of what it is. I struggle with the fact that it is so front and center, and it seems that many are talking about it in platitudes and jargonistic ways and acronyms and how they might be deploying it. And I find it quite difficult to trust in what it means and represents, because maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, but it doesn't feel like there's a real sharp understanding of the power of what it could be used for, and to the same extent, like how detrimental it can be if it's not used in the right way. I don't think it's a buzzword. I think it's one of those acronyms that seems to be spearheading every conversation at the moment, but without real purpose and definition behind it.
Well, Duncan, thank you so much. I've had so many insights now being taken away with me. I'm really grateful to have you here with us today.
Thank you very much for your time.